Well, good Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining me here on Weather Impact Live as we're going to be talking about the tropics. Got a lot of activity going on. I got meteorologist Colleen Campbell going to come in and really kind of break it down on how this is going to affect us. Now, I can go ahead and tell you right now, we're not going to have any tropical impacts. We always have tropical moisture in our area this time of year, and that just means rain chances. So we got good news when it comes to the potential for our rain chances as we coming up on this weekend. But first, let's get to the tropics, because as soon as we turned the month over into August, things really did start to wake up. So this is what we're dealing with right now. We got a couple of areas of interest, and of course we have Dexter. You see them kind of all coming together in the same spot where Dexter is right now. And I'm going to break all three of these down for you. You got one wave coming off the coast of Africa, one area of low pressure that's actually out there right now. And they don't flag every area of low pressure. It's the tropical potential of this one, and that's what the 10 and 40 is. And of course, we're talking about Dexter, and you can see the proximity of Dexter to us. We saw that area low pressure form off the coast of the Carolinas there, and look how far it's moving its way away. It actually did pick up some speed as we went out the day yesterday into today, and it did gain a little strength as well. 50-mile-per-hour winds, central pressure is now down below 1,000 and is moving to the east-northeast at now 15 miles an hour. And you can see kind of a difference of what we had yesterday. There is a lot more convection, but look how far that is blown off of the center, and that is because it is battling a little bit of wind shear out there. So again, this one's moving its way away from us. It's always nice to track these. These are the ones that we like to track here because they're the ones that have zero impacts to us. They are going to be, this one of course is going to be a fish storm, but you see again the forecast models taking that one to the north and northeast as we go throughout the weekend, and you can see there just all through next week, and it's just going to continue to move further away from us. So no worries with that one. Now with this one, it is actually forecasted now to strengthen up just a little bit as it moves through today into tomorrow. It's also going to become what we call extratropical. They call it a remnant low or extratropical. Extratropical is where it goes back to just being a normal low, a cold core low, from a tropical system to a non-tropical system. It has nothing to do with wind speeds. That's all on the temperature. So you can see we go 60, 65, 70, gets up close to hurricane strength as that one's moving its way, transitioning into that extratropical phase, and then gradually weakening as we go throughout its life cycle into and through the weekend. But again, it's going to be a nice storm for the west coast of Europe over there. So again, that one's moving its way away from us. And one of the reasons why, again, it's making that shift is because of the water temperature. So this one's not going to dissipate. And this is typically what happens to all the systems when they move up to those higher latitudes. And the red is 80. The orange is those 70-degree water temperatures. And it's going to move up into much cooler water temperatures as we go throughout, again, the next couple of days. So we're going to see that possibly, again, get near hurricane strength before shifting over to extratropical. And one of the reasons why you see the circulation here where Dexter's actually located, let me get this back here a little bit, where it's actually located. There's your circulation, but look, above that is that wind shear that you can see, kind of the big trough over the east coast, and that is the jet stream. That is giving it that wind shear that is kind of, number one, helping to give it a push, but that's what's blowing all the convection off of the center, which is why you can't see like an eye on that and watch it just push its way on over. So again, that one's going to be working its way up and out, so no worries about that one for us. Now let's come back to our coast here, the coast of the U.S., not the coast of Tampa, which is good news on this one. And we have this area here. Again, there is a low there right now, but what we're going to be watching for is that low. Anytime you have a low that develops along a stalled front, it's a cold core low. But it doesn't take long sitting out over this nice 82 to 85 degree water that's out there in the Atlantic for it to transition into that warm core, which is of course what makes it tropical. That's what the National Hurricane Center is given that potential for 10% over the next 2 days, 40% over the next 7 days. And if you look at what's going on right now, there is the low sitting out there. This is the low right here that we're looking at. That could again drift its way up. So developing along that stalled front, and looks like it could potentially, there it is. And that's what this is showing. It's kind of breaking its way loose from that front, and that's where it could become tropical. You see the ocean temperatures, the water temperatures are very warm. Not as warm as we are here. Our water temperatures here are 88 to 90. But if you look out there over the East Coast, you got 80 to 85. Of course, perfect conditions with that Gulf Stream working its way up the east coast of Florida and over towards the outer banks of that development that we're going to get out of that one. So let's look at your forecasted winds for this one. And again, we're going to see this one kind of develop. I see it right off here on the corner of your picture, very far right. That is Dexter. And you watch it move away. Now watch what happens though as we go into Friday. There's that closed circulation there off the coast of the Carolinas. And you see it come in a little bit better into the picture as we go throughout Friday and then into Saturday. But look how far it is off the coast of the Carolinas. And kind of there it is, following right behind Dexter, right under the banner there. So I have a feeling as we go throughout maybe Friday into Saturday, we could potentially get a name out of this system. But again, the good news is it is going to be pushing its way out of here, which of course is always good news for us. Now that is the European model, and here's your forecast winds. This would be the GFS model. And again, there's Dexter moving its way out, and there is that low. Watch the circulation close off. And you can see this one is, and usually the GFS is a little more apt to maybe create these sooner, but there is that closed. And again, we're going Friday into Saturday, or again, this one could potentially be a depression. And there, that one has a nice tropical storm out of that one by Sunday. So I think that one is going to be getting a name before the one coming off the coast of Africa. And of course, we already have Dexter out there. Our next name on the list will be Aaron. So while that one is moving its way away from us, we are going to get impacts. So this is a big system, and this is what is going to be actually increasing our rain chances as we go into the weekend. So we're not looking at the tropical aspect of it, of this one bringing the wind and the storm surge and stuff like that, like a tropical system would. But the tropical moisture is here, and that is what's going to increase our rain chances into the weekend. So let's bring it back here locally, and for that, I'm joined by meteorologist Colleen Campbell. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how this is going to be affecting us as this thing is developing. Again, this is what's going to be affecting our weather as we head into the weekend, right, Colleen?
Yeah, and that's where my shift takes over, right? I see you guys on Saturday and Sunday. So we will be talking about the increase in moisture available in our atmosphere and how that's really going to increase our rain chances as we move into this weekend. But let's kind of recircle and start with what we have set up right now. So James just went over the different tropical systems that we have our eye on, but let's get back closer to home. Here's that stalled out frontal boundary, and again, if we widen this picture out a little bit, we do have a low pressure system that's right above my head there that is along this front, and we're watching for that to pinch off from there and then eventually move off towards the northeast. In the meantime, we have an area high pressure that's over in the Gulf right now, and you can see how the winds kind of steer down, taking more of a northerly direction as we look closer to our west coast here, and that's really driving the rain that we have for today. So right now things are fairly quiet across our area, but as we go into the afternoon, we'll basically have those sea breezes. We have the sea breeze coming in from the east coast and our local sea breeze on the west coast, and yes, that is influenced by that steering pattern, that area high pressure that's over in the Gulf right now, and that will allow that collision of winds and those showers and storms to bubble up. So here we go in a little bit closer. As I mentioned, we are pretty quiet right now. We do have more of a northerly wind that's currently setting up shop across our area. That could drive in a few showers to Citrus County, Pasco County, Hernando County, and then as we move into the afternoon and we get those sea breezes going, that's when we will start to see a little bit more significant rainfall across our interior locations, right where those two sea breezes are colliding together. Expected rainfall going into the next several days. So today and tomorrow, pretty much our typical pattern here, again, driven by those sea breezes. But as we move into this weekend, you see that increase in moisture for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You may see a few weather impact alerts pop up for this weekend. If we get that pop, that probability of precipitation up closer to 70%. Definitely widespread rain, right? You see that chance of rain covering basically the entire viewing area, but pay attention to the darker green colors. That means that we will have rainfall more often or more frequent, more rainfall than usual, and that's when we start issuing those weather impact alerts. So going into our moisture meter here, so this map just basically shows you if we took a column of air and squeezed it as tight as we could, just compressed it, how much water would be in the bottom. Think of a jar. If we just had a column, in a glass jar, put a bunch of air in there, and we squeezed it tight, how much water would collect in the bottom? And when we get closer to that 2-inch mark, that's when we do see these tropical downpours, right? We have a lot of moisture to work with. Another way that you can look at it, the darker green on the map, right? We have that nice contour to show you. So again, here's that stalled out front right now. There's that area of low pressure. We're watching for that to pinch off from this front, and yes, it could turn tropical, and that will kind of move off to the northeast. That's not really a concern, but again, kind of adding to our moisture here. Then we have another area low pressure that will be developing as we move into this weekend, and that will help stir in some moisture as well. So here's our European model. I don't believe James showed this yet, but James did some nice edits this morning for us. So again, we have that area high pressure right now. This is just what we're looking at, that front. There's that area low pressure. That's the one that's going to pinch off and move off towards the northeast. And then we have another one that I believe is going to pop up here. Yeah, so this will bring in some extra moisture as we move into this weekend. There it is. And we do start to increase our rain chances. Now, right now, this does not look like it will be tropical. It's just part of this, just like the situation we have right now. But we will watch anytime we're in tropical storm season. We just watch these areas of low pressure very carefully to see, as James said earlier, if it turns from a cold core low to a warm cold low and taking on that tropical characteristic. Right now, it's just going to be a rainmaker for us, right? It's just increasing all of that rainfall that we have. How much rain can we expect? Well, this is going into the weekend now. Here we are, 11 p.m. Let's zoom in and so we can see those numbers for you guys. And we could collect anywhere from 1 inch to 1.25 inches, even 1.5 inches. 2 inches not out of the question for some locations. Now this is over the weekend, so again, bulk of this rainfall will come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with a couple downpours on the way. Getting back to what to expect for the next 24 hours. Again, here we are closer to 4 p.m. Notice we have that sea breeze coming in from the east coast, and we also have our local sea breeze coming in from the west coast. Right where they collide is where we will start to see those rain chances really collecting, especially across our viewing area. This is closer to 7, 8 o'clock at night. And again, once that east coast sea breeze takes over, it will kind of push it over to the west coast. So it's all about the wind for this time of the year. Now, this is getting into the tropical origins where we typically see these tropical systems develop for this time of the year. This is not saying what's to come. It's just saying that areas that we typically over climate data historically where we see for the month of August. And this is the area that we really want to pay attention to when we get into the deep Atlantic, right? The central Atlantic. There's a wave coming off the coast of Africa that we're going to be watching. James will probably touch on that in a little bit more detail. But again, this is kind of the hot spot where we see more activity for this time of the year. So this is what we will be watching for moving forward into September. Remember, we have most of our tropical activity that takes place, 90% of it from August 1st through August, September, and October are our busiest months, especially here at home. So right now, again, just look for those showers and storms to start developing. As we move into this afternoon, things are pretty quiet right now. And then this weekend, we will have that influx of moisture on the way and likely some weather impact alerts down the road for that more rainfall than usual, right? So we just like to give you guys a heads up, especially if you have weekend plans. So now James is going to take it over and we're going to nerd out some more, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about more things coming off the coast of Africa. And on what you're showing right there is what we're going to be focusing on over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes.
And that steering pattern there is all about that high pressure that's in the Atlantic. So let's go to what we're watching right now. And this is the wave that came off the coast of Africa just a couple of days ago. National Hurricane Center has given this one a 20% potential over the course of the next 2 days and a 60% potential over the next 5 days. And look how big that cone is. There's a couple of reasons why it's been so elongated, because this one's going to be battling a few things. And number one, the first thing you can see is the way that is shaped. that is due to that high pressure, which I'll talk about here in just a second. So again, you go to the water temperature in the tropics, and there is no doubt August is warm. We're still warming up, but you can see there how warm that water temperature is. Of course, anything in red is at that 80-degree mark. You've got mid 80s and upper 80s when you get to those darker reds. Now, water temperature anomaly we like to show, especially since we had those years, which was 22, 23, where we were 22, I think 22 into 23 is where we were breaking records on how warm it was. And you had those water temperatures warming up quickly. Now, our anomalies for this year, we're pretty close to where we're supposed to be in terms of water temperature. So we were talking about, going to St. Pete Beach this past weekend. Your water temperature is 90 to 91, exactly where it's supposed to be. So your water temperature anomaly is right around maybe 1 to 2 degrees warmer than normal. So that's going to be pretty close. So let's talk about the reasons why this one could be tough on this one. And forecast models are still not really liking this one and becoming very much, besides maybe possibly just a tropical depression, but maybe not until we get into next week. So one of the things we always look at is the Saharan dust. There are as many factors that go in to hurricanes developing. Tropical depressions, tropical storms, hurricanes. You have water temperature, you have wind shear, you have moisture. You need all these to come together. Low wind shear, high moisture, which is those warm temperatures. And of course, you need the moisture to go all the way up through the column. In the mid-levels, Saharan dust does dry that out. Now, Saharan dust is not going to completely choke a system out, but what it will do, if we can get a system to form, it will just keep it weak. So here we go, Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday. Look at that huge plume of dust coming off, and it goes right in the path of where this one is expected to travel. So that is why we're looking at such a big area for potential for development. Is it going to live through that? The low more than likely will still hold together, but is it going to be a depression, a storm? And it looks like it's not until maybe that passes and you go into early next week, and then check out. This one more than likely be back behind it. I'm thinking as we go through the week next week, as this one moves its way up towards the north of all this dust, it moves into a better spot with a little less wind shear. That's when we could potentially see some further development on that one. But that's why that area is so big for the potential for development. Is the dust going to be enough to choke it out? Are the water temperatures warm enough to give you more moisture to be able to kind of equal that out? And again, about the wind shear as well. But you can see the one off our coast, let's back this up, off the coast of America there, just kind of, right north of the Bahamas. Not going to see much of an impact with dust with that one. There is going to be a little bit. Right, and that's going to be, again, for the next couple days into the weekend. But as you can see, get a nice break there. And forecast models are showing when that one gets above the Outer Banks, that's when it looks like a better potential for that one to strengthen up maybe a little bit more. GFS really likes that one. They've been very bullish on that one, possibly becoming a tropical storm again, or maybe even stronger than that. Again, the good news with that, it's moving away. So again, 2 plumes of dust come off, and you can see a third one coming off behind that. This is the time of year where the position of that high pressure is what is going to be steering these systems. And when these systems stay further to the south out of that dust, that's where we see these systems developing. That's where we see them strengthening through the main development region. And that's when we see those hurricanes before they even reach the Lesser Antilles there. So let's look at the wind shear forecast as well, because this is another one that could be working against it. So you look at the one off the East Coast, and wind shear not too big of a factor. It's kind of in a slot right there. So you can see not too big there. But as it moves its way to the north, it's going to be running into some wind shear there. Back it up and look at the one coming off the coast of Africa. It's got a little slot there, but remember that slot that it has with less wind shear does have dust. So it doesn't have dust and wind shear combined to choke it out. So again, this is a balancing act here on all the ingredients. And you see the wind shear not really too big of a deal. We go through the weekend, there's a little bit of shear in there, but I don't think the shear is going to be the biggest factor with this one, moving forward into midweek next week, and it's going to be moving up, and it will battle some wind shear just a little bit later. So again, all these ingredients go into what these systems are going to be, if they're going to be a depression, a storm, an actual hurricane. I haven't got our first hurricane yet this year. Usually the first hurricane develops in, of course, the month of August. But what we're going to watch is this. So this is one of the things, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute because I want to show you something else. So here, as you can see, that little gray spot, that gray circle in the middle, that is where we have Dexter right now. Green is high pressure. So the darker the green, the stronger the pressure. But look how today that high pressure stretches all the way across Florida. So you see as Dexter moves up, look at that break right there. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Look how the green, there's the one Sunday. There's the one that is expected to develop and go up the coast. There's that one going through the week. Now it's not going to go turn into the strong high pressure, but as that ridge kind of shifts over, that right there, Tuesday, that's kind of opens the door. Look, the Bahamas completely out of the high pressure, or Bermuda, excuse me, and the Bahamas completely out of that high pressure. And if it continues to slide its way to the east, we call that like opening the door for tropical activity to be able to come closer to us. You know, the stronger that high pressure is, the high pressure over us, that keeps those pushed down through the Bahamas. And that would be a system that would run into Mexico, run into the Gulf, that would be through the Caribbean. Those are the types of things we watch. And that's why, again, Colleen showed you this map here earlier. And with the origins being in the main development region, what we're looking at is where that high pressure is. The high pressure is what's going to steer these systems. The high pressure, stronger push to the south, will have a system developing to the south of all that dust, the south of all that wind shear. And that's what typically happens when we go into August and September, is that high pressure will either weaken or that high pressure will shift and kind of give those things a push. And again, here we go with hurricane season. Again, we are in August now, and that's typically when everything kind of ramps up. You can see the 1st of August, look how it just jumps up. So we're here in August, and you can see September 10th being the peak there. So we're compared, and Mike and I talked about this yesterday. You put in all your ingredients together and you try to find a year that is kind of similar to the setup we have this year with the Enzo cycle, with the African monsoon season, with where the predicted high pressure is going to be and all that. And it does look like 2018 is one of the years that mimics kind of what we're looking at for this year. And of course, everyone remembers the two big ones from 2018. We had Michael and we had Florence. So unfortunately, yes, we had Michael and a little later in the season there. But everyone's always worried about impacts. It only takes the one. So we can talk about having a season like we did in 2020. We talked about 2020 breaking records, 30 named systems, the most we have ever had. And I think the only thing we saw here was Tropical Storm Sally, which was dying into a tropical depression when it hit just to the north of the Nature Coast. So it doesn't matter how many systems we have, we just need that one. So let's hope we don't get that one. And again, what we're looking at for us now is really just Rainmaker. And here's what we'll watch for next week. I'll go ahead and just hint on this because this is not something we're watching right now, but this goes to show how active that we're going to be. Look where my pointer is right here. We got another wave coming off the coast of Africa. So again, this one could be further to the south. We'll watch where that high pressure is, and we'll watch to see what the track. But right now, anything coming off the coast of Africa set up right here along the coast, that's 2 weeks out. It would take 2 weeks for it to get here if it was to come here. So that's why we got plenty of time to watch that one. What we're going to focus on now, of course, is our weekend weather, right, Colleen? Talking about some rain coming up.
Yes, yes. So we have that increase in moisture for this weekend. Not necessarily, it is tropical moisture, but it's not a tropical system that we really need to worry about. It's just going to be extra rain. So similar to what we had a few weeks ago, right? Before we had all of the heat. If you remember, we had a few weather impact alerts for all of that excessive rainfall. So that's exactly what we're getting this weekend. You can expect anywhere from 1 to 2 inches on the higher end with a nice healthy downpour. You can get even more than that in some localized spots. Today, it's basically our typical weather pattern that we have going on. I explained this a few minutes ago. We have an area high pressure, so that's driving into a northerly wind along our coast right now. We also have the sea breeze that's setting up on the east coast. Again, very typical. We live on a peninsula, right? So when those two boundaries come together, as those two different winds clash together, and eventually one is going to win out, and that's going to be the case for today, where we see the East Coast wind that's taking over as we move into the afternoon and the evening, and that will basically allow those showers. We get that lift, right? In order for thunderstorms to happen, we need lift and we need moisture, right? So very, very typical pattern for today. That's why we don't have a weather impact alert. We will see things get a little bit more active as we move into the afternoon and the evening. And then when we head past sunset and we lose that daytime heating, then things will start to quiet down. But on your 7-day forecast here, warm, hot, humid, right? All of the above. And then moving into this weekend, notice we have a 60% chance of rain right now. Now, everywhere in the area, we have great coverage for this weekend, but how much rainfall are we going to get? That's something that you have to consider. Is it going to impact days like this weekend when we have the Bucks preseason game? It could. So I want you to make sure that you're tuning into the forecast, especially if you have any plans for this upcoming weekend, especially as we get closer to that preseason Bucks game, so we can time it out just, on the money for you. Of course, the forecast always gets a little bit better the closer you get to the day. But again, right now there's no weather impact alert. We probably will issue one for Saturday and Sunday. That's something that we talk among our team and determine from there. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, temperatures close to average, a degree or two warmer than that, kind of cooling us down this weekend, bringing us closer to average with all that rain.
Yeah, and the one good thing that I like about that, what you're just talking about there with the temperatures coming down, check this out. And we'll end on this right here. Look at your heat index for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's where we're going to get 99 to 100. That's going to be a lot better.